right, hello, welcome back to Unqualified Analysis, back to our regularly scheduled programming after a quick business trip out the country. But we're back, folks, and we got the regularly scheduled college football stuff going on today. It's exciting. October 12th lived up to all of the hype we put onto it going in there. I mean, I couldn't quite hype it up in real time, but just know I was hyping it up to everyone who would listen throughout the course of the week. I don't think most of them care, but I'll tell you what, it was an awesome Saturday. Almost at Sunday. It was an awesome Sunday, too. No Vikings game, so no chance to lose, but awesome Saturday. I mean, so much going on, so much happening, and in the interest of that, we're going to try and breeze through this real quick and, get you some picks and get you on out of here. I feel bad for not giving you picks on some earlier episodes over the last couple of weeks. So I got two for you tonight. And there's a couple lines we're waiting on. I think they're going to move in our favor. So just giving them time to kind of collect their feelings, if you will, and kind of, stabilize out in the right place where we're hoping that they stabilize out in. But I got two for you. 6-3 last week on the picks. 27-18 overall. I'm not sure there's a gambling podcast out there. Well, this isn't really a gambling podcast, but I'm not sure there's a podcast picker out there who is hotter than your boy right now. So if you're not tailing the picks, watch. After this week, it's going to completely fall through the floor. But we're achieving operational success in our full-on offensive against the board right now. And let's hope we keep that going. I think we're just going to keep probing the defenses, really just keep pressing on the weaknesses that we found, and I think we can achieve even more operational success going forward. Enough with the military analogies, though. Your boy's hot. Your boy is absolutely hot, but with all that said, enough self-sucking. Let's get into the meat of the matter here. Let's look at college football week 7, October 12th, the fabled October 12th. It lived up to the hype. And where else would we start, man? The biggest game of the weekend that absolutely exceeded everything that we were expecting. Ohio State goes on the road to Oregon, and this thing is nip-tucked from the very beginning here. I mean, it was back and forth. Ohio State is up, then Oregon is up. I mean, there is just so much going on at any given time, man, and it just kept going back and forth. Came right down to the very end. Will Howard, bless the kid's heart, man. I've been talking to Ohio State fans all day, and boy, they want him out of town. And that's, if you know anything about Ohio State fans, that's precisely what you would expect from them. At least the ones that I talked to seem pretty self-aware with the fact that they are crazy. So, I mean, hey, give it to him. I mean, Will Howard had a great game. He just, I mean, you gotta criticize where you should criticize. Kid just short-circuited there in the last 5 seconds or so. Tries to slide and take a timeout before time runs out, but basically slides at 1 second, doesn't have time to take a timeout. Clock runs out. They're in field goal range. Ohio State does not get an opportunity to kick a game-winning field goal. Game is over. Oregon gets the win 32-31. I mean, Oregon had to get a go-ahead touchdown late in this one to win as well. I mean, all the credit in the world to him. Dillon Gabriel had, I guess you could call it a Heisman moment in this game. He was sensational in this one. He had, 3 total touchdowns, 2 through the air, 1 on the ground, 8 yards per carry on the ground. He had a long touchdown, too, 27 yards on that touchdown. I mean, Evan Stewart was spectacular. I keep going off of the main point here. I mean, Dillon Gabriel, 10 yards per attempt, 3 total touchdowns, went 23 of 34 for 341 yards. No turnovers against one of the best defenses in the country. That's about as good of a Heisman moment as you can have for a quarterback. I mean, Dillon Gabriel's right back in this thing, and it just goes to show you, I mean, you can't really make any definitive predictions in the Heisman here in week 5. You really can't make them in week 6 either. I mean, it's really, this always comes down to week 12, championship week. Who has the best moment there of the candidates that are still available, probably playing in championship weekend. That's probably the person that's going to win it. You can go back and look historically. That's generally how it happens. This is a spur-of-the-moment decision many times, and I think a lot of the voters just kind of hold on to whatever they were expecting in the beginning of the year, and then at the end of the year, they kind of look at the candidates that the media has as consensus, or at the very least like the ESPNs of the world have as consensus, and then of those guys who had the best moment in the final week of the season, that's usually the guy that wins. And then in the absence of a great moment in championship weekend, they just default to the last week of the season. It's a highly reactionary award. I think no one in their right mind is denying that. But Dillon Gabriel's put himself right in the conversation here in week 6, right before we're coming right up on that time where the playoff committee starts releasing their rankings. I believe they released their first rankings on election night, so I'm sure many people will be watching that. I mean, I know I certainly will. It's going to be a damning indictment of our political system when the revealing of the first playoff rankings outrates the election coverage. I guess let's hope that doesn't happen. But at the same time, it would be hilarious. So I'm kind of hoping it does happen here at the same time. This is a statement win from Oregon. I'm not really worried about Ohio State, and I've kind of just, tamped down the concerns of my Ohio State friends here over the course of the last day or so. Look, man, this is probably the last loss on the regular season schedule. Will Howard, the only mistake he made the entire game pretty much was that slide there at the end. I mean, he went 28 of 35 for 326, 2 touchdowns, 1 on the ground as well, so 3 total touchdowns, no turnovers. This was a quarterback duel right up till the very end. Just that one mistake was in the worst possible moment to make a mistake. So obviously, you're going to get lambasted for that. Transferring to Ohio State, that comes with a certain set of baggage that you're just going to have to live with, and that baggage, namely, is the fans are going to turn on you very, very quickly if you're Will Howard. All it takes is a bad moment in a big game, and you're right there. They want to throw you out of town, and it's going to be better. I mean, this is, like I said, probably the last loss on the regular season schedule for Ohio State, I would say. They're probably going to face Oregon again. All is not lost in a 12-team playoff. You're very much still in this thing. Hell, even in a 4-team playoff, Ohio State still very much in this thing. Oregon, though, this is a statement win. This is a win that could ultimately propel them all the way to the playoff, because I'm not sure they got a loss in the regular season schedule left either. They're going. Let me kind of pull this thing up here while I'm kind of bloviating. You got to watch out at Purdue next week. Now that's a spot coming off a huge win, going on the road to Purdue. Where have we heard that story before? You got to watch out if you're Oregon. This is, I mean, as many have been saying online here, this is going to be Oregon's welcome to the Big Ten moment, coming off of a big win, going on the road at Purdue. Watch out. Watch out. I'm probably not going to bet this game because Oregon is much better than Purdue. But if there's anything Purdue does well, it is trap games. They absolutely feast in trap games with big-time opponents, and that I don't see this being necessarily any different this year. Watch out for that this coming weekend. But it's not like they have a cupcake schedule here. They're home against Illinois, though. They're on the road at Michigan, who is, they're not the Michigan that they were last year. The fact they're still ranked boggles my mind. Then they play Maryland. They're at Wisconsin, and then they play Washington to end off of the year. Now that should be, if everything goes as planned with Purdue this coming week, that should be, all wins, 6-0 down the stretch here. That'd be 12-0 going into the Big Ten title game. So if they do that, they're in the playoffs pretty much no matter what. If you go into the championship weekend undefeated in this new playoff system, essentially stamp it, sign, seal it, delivered, you're going to the playoff. It's just a matter of getting through these games. And really for both of these teams. I mean, the moral of this whole story, it's not over for Ohio State. And at this point, Oregon, if you just take care of business throughout the rest of your regular season, you're going to the playoff. So it's great for Oregon, not the end of the world for Ohio State. Huge game, though, and huge measuring stick game for both of these teams. I think we can kind of consider Oregon legit after this game, where we were kind of waffling back and forth. They started the season slow. But, you look back at that early season, and I just exited out of it. I'm going to go right back to the schedule here. I mean, you start off the year against Idaho, 24-14. That's not great, but it is week 1. You got some cobwebs there. That week 2 win over Boise State, 37-34. Knowing what we know now about Ashton Jeanty and how solid that team is, I mean, Boise State might ultimately be a G5 contender for the playoff spot here. That's excusable. 37-34, that's excusable when you got a legit, Heisman runaway front runner right now and Ashton Jeanty running the ball for you. And that game was no different. He still had a huge game in that one, so that's forgivable. Then they go on the road to Oregon State, beat the hell out of them. UCLA doesn't look great, but they take care of business. Michigan State, more of the same. They're just Big Ten blowouts there. And then they win against Ohio State. So, I mean, the one that you can quibble with is Idaho there in week 1. But outside of that, man, I mean, Oregon's been sharp. Oregon's been real sharp, and they showed that they were absolutely legit this past weekend going up against Ohio State. So Oregon, I think they are who we thought they were, quite frankly. And I'm looking forward to seeing what they do throughout the year. But we move on from there. We got more to talk about. And I mean, I guess I can breeze past this one real quick. I mean, Arizona State beat Utah. If you watched this game, this was not a surprise. Cam Rising legitimately couldn't move. I guess he got hit early on in the game. Sorry, I got to adjust my glasses here. I guess he got hit early on in the game. Re-aggravated an ankle, knee injury, whatever it is that he's been kind of nursing. And then from that point, he just couldn't get any push into his throws. He was leaving every single one short. He had no base whatsoever, and made it very easy for the Arizona State defense. I mean, the best part of this game, Arizona State won, by the way, 27-19. Arizona State's 5-1. Head coach, youngest head coach in the FBS, Kenny Dillingham, after the game, he went to Arizona State. The fans stormed the field. Obviously, it's the first time they've been 5-1 in quite some time. They're all hyped up. Some sideline reporter is just trying their damnedest to interview Kenny Dillingham after this game, and next thing you know, he's answering a question about how crazy it is that he went to not Oregon State but Arizona State, and now he is coaching them past Utah, coaching them to 5-1, and then he just says, "I used to be one of these people. I used to go like and then he just dissolved into the crowd." Kenny Dillingham might still be missing to this day. I have no idea. All I know is you were not finishing that interview. That was the end of that interview right there, because he just got swallowed by the crowd. It was beautiful. You absolutely love to see it. And hey, that's a signature win for Arizona State. Again, I mean, kind of lucked out with the circumstances. You always hate to see injuries, but Cam Rising not being, even 50% in this game certainly helped out Arizona State's case, but they're 2-1 in the Big 12, 5-1 overall. They're very, very much in the thick of things in this conference, and hey, maybe Kenny Dillingham's got something cooking. I mean, Cam Skattebo, he is a star, absolute specimen, and his name is Skattebo. I thought it was Skattebo. They made it very clear on the broadcast. It is Skattebo, not Skattebo. And you know what? Skattebo's even more fun of a name. So I'm just gonna roll with that. You don't got to tell me twice. I'm just gonna stick with Skattebo. Either way, he had 158 rushing yards in this game, 2 touchdowns, one of the most electric runs I've ever seen. He's such a powerful runner. Low center of gravity, great balance. I mean, a guy had him wrapped up, and he somehow found a way to wriggle out of it, accelerates, gets to the end zone for a touchdown, has a cool celebration pointing at the camera. We got to see later on online the angle from that camera that he did the little, frame to, then kick through the door frame or whatever it happens to be celebration. We got the angle from that camera. It was a video. It was an awesome video. But yeah, that's the best. That's the most that I take from Arizona State in that one. Hey, keep winning. We're gonna keep talking about you. So that's really what you can take away from that. The Big 12 is just, who the fuck even knows, man? Who the fuck even knows what's happening in the Big 12? I'm just excited to watch it throughout the rest of the year. It's not the best football, but it is some of the most entertaining that you're gonna watch, and that's my selling point for the Big 12. Texas beat Oklahoma 34-3. Quinn Ewers did not look great in this game. Did not look 100%. You wonder how long they're going to hold on to him there at quarterback. I think they're probably going to roll with him, but there's credible sort of rumblings. I mean, not rumblings, but credible sort of discussion outside of the program. Like, hey, does Arch Manning give you a better chance to win right now? Because he certainly played better over the last couple of games than what Quinn Ewers did in this game. I'm kind of that mind, but on the other hand, it's unfair to judge Quinn Ewers on one game, coming off of a little injury layoff there, probably a little bit rusty, going up against a solid Oklahoma defense. I can get it. I understand it. I'm leaving it to the side for now. If he keeps playing like this, the discussion's going to get louder. But for right now, give the kids some time to get back into action and prove that, that was just a 1 week fluke. Oklahoma, they stink. They're not very good. They have no offense. The offensive coordinator they hired this year is obviously a dud. I'm very excited to have Jeff Lebby after what I've seen from the Oklahoma offense this year, because it looks like all the magic left when Jeff Lebby left town. And hey, Mississippi State's starting to score points here in conference play with a true freshman quarterback. We're going to talk about them in just a bit. Hey, man. I'm excited to have him. Hopefully he doesn't bring too much baggage off the field. But as far as what the Oklahoma program is right now, if you don't have a good offensive coordinator, it really doesn't matter how good your defense is. And the defense isn't really elite. They're just very good right now. They're much better than they were under Lincoln Riley, but they're just very good at the moment. This was over in a hurry, man. I mean, Texas outscored Oklahoma in the second quarter. After Oklahoma got a 3-0 lead going into the second quarter, Texas just turned on the gas, 21-0 in the second quarter, and this thing was over. I mean, there was not a single point scored by Oklahoma after the first quarter, and it's not like Texas stepped on the gas in the second half. I mean, they scored 3 in the third quarter, they scored 10 in the fourth. They just kind of coasted into the finish and just ended up with a dominant win. You got to be looking yourself in the mirror if you're Oklahoma after hiring Brent Venables and signing him to a big-time extension this past offseason, which, hey, man, if it works out, you look like a genius signing him that early before you even had a chance to look at what the team would look like with Jackson Arnold. You already knew that he had turnover problems, and there was, you expected him to be the 5-star that you wanted him to be, but there's no guarantee that that just automatically pans out. Well, seems like that one didn't pan out very well. Now you're on the second quarterback this year. He's a true freshman. He's not playing well. The offense looks bad and looks much worse than it did last year. And now you're in the SEC. You're not getting any cupcake games like you were getting in the Big 12. It's just a full SEC schedule, unless you seem to come across a team like a Mississippi State in there on a year like this year. I don't know what the next 3 years looks like for Oklahoma, man, because it looks like they've whiffed on their quarterback prospects. They whiffed on their offensive coordinator hire last year. And if you can't get the offense going, it's going to be a tough time seeing this team go anywhere. And you got to wonder, with a fan base with expectations like they have, how long they're going to keep Brent Venables around. I know they just paid him, but Oklahoma's one of those schools that got more money than God. They got some oil money in there. They got some rich donors outside of the oil money. They got the money to buy out this contract, even though they just extended him. It'll be interesting to see if this season really falls apart, if they don't win another game the rest of the year, or they win like one game the rest of the year, they ultimately miss bowl eligibility. Don't be surprised if, just one off season after they sign Brent Venables to that big time extension, if they don't cut bait. I mean, it'd be very reactionary, but would you be shocked if Oklahoma did something like that? I personally wouldn't. So that's a situation to keep an eye on right there. Even one of these matchups that did not look as good as it had come preseason, Penn State at USC, that one was an absolute banger. We lost on that bet, -3.5, just a brutal loss for Penn State in that one. But I mean, 33-30 final in overtime. Penn State gets the win. They maintain the 6-0 season. They're setting up a big time date with Penn State here in the coming weeks. Maybe that's next week. Maybe that's the week after. I can't quite remember off the top of my head. But hey, USC put up a fight in this one. They used their home field advantage to their advantage. And hey, it was a good game, but ultimately just came up short when it all came down to crunch time. Drew Aller had a big game in this one. 391, 2 touchdowns. Warren, the tight end for Penn State, 17 receptions, 224 yards, and 1 touchdown. That's insane. That's real insane. I think we're still kind of figuring out who Penn State is. I think their offense looks better than it did last year. That's for certain. And we're going to see how good Drew Aller is in these big games, because I think when they face Ohio State, that's the true litmus test for, is Penn State ready to go over the hump? Because I say Ohio State's probably not going to lose a game. I still think that they're going to win that game against Penn State, but Penn State's not that far off from Ohio State right now. Are they ready to bump through that ceiling and make a run at the Big Ten title? We'll see. We'll see going forward, but I like this Penn State team right now. They're every bit as good as they were last year, if not better. And hey, let's just see. 2024 was always the year for this team. 2023 was just, a happy little surprise for them, but 2024 was always the year. So let's see if they capitalize on it. USC, still adjusting to the Big Ten, man. You got to keep getting bodies on both lines of scrimmage, and we'll just leave it at that. Also keep the QB recruits up, but it's Lincoln Riley. I have no worries about that. Hey, the fighting Mississippi State Bulldogs, those plucky underdogs, For the second straight game, they go on the road into a hostile environment versus a top 5 team, and they cover the spread, baby. Georgia gets the win, but Mississippi State gets the cover, 41-31. Carson Beck threw for a country mile against us, 459 and 3 touchdowns, but we got some turnovers off of him. I mean, it was good. It was a good showing. I mean, hey, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. You don't go up against the fighting Mississippi State Bulldogs and expect an easy time here, especially not when MVB Michael Van Buren is just throwing bombs out there. I mean, 306 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. He was spectacular in this one. Kevin Coleman was spectacular in this one. Kelly Akari, 2 touchdowns, spectacular. We're building something over here in Starkville, Mississippi, and the true freshman quarterback, Michael Van Buren, your SEC Freshman Player of the Week here for Week 6. He's legit. He's legit, and we're going to build in the next year. Boys, we suck right now. We absolutely suck, but I'll tell you, we got momentum. We got momentum going in the right direction. We can get some wins. Hey, you better watch out, Ole Miss. We're here to piss in your Cheerios, and we're here to smile while we're doing it. That's all I got to say about Mississippi State right now. Let's go Bulldogs, baby. Hail State, baby. Let's go. But we don't really need to talk much more about Mississippi State. You already know they're one of the elite teams in the SEC. Going forward here for the next, 5 years. 5-year window, give it a 5-year window. We're one of the elite teams in the SEC. But Georgia Bulldogs, they're an elite team right now, or should be an elite team. And this was really, I'm joking around, but this final score was not as close as it was not as close as it may seem. It was a 17-point game going into garbage time. Michael Van Buren just, led us down the field and got a quick touchdown to make it a 10-point game at the end there. Give us at least a little bit of hope. That's all I'm asking. But really, this game was much closer than it should have been throughout this one. And I know Mississippi State's offense is coming around. It's gotten better progressively every week from what I've seen. But you shouldn't be giving up 31 points to a Mississippi State team with no offensive line, and we're out of starter too, quite frankly. Playing a bunch of true freshmen, you shouldn't be giving up 31 points to Georgia. Or to Mississippi State. I don't care if 1 touchdown was in garbage time. You got to have a little bit of pride. And I don't know, man. I just don't know if Georgia is all that good. From everything I've seen from them, it's just not gelling. The offense is just not that great. Yes, they threw for a country mile against us, but Mississippi State's defense is horrible. Horrible, I say, horrible. We got one tackling machine in Isaac Smith, who, by the way, he had, give me just a minute, only 5 tackles, but all solo in this game. Stone Blanton led the team in tackles in this one. But you basically got 2 solid linebackers in Stone Blanton and Isaac Smith, and just a bunch of problem children all throughout the rest of that defense. So it's not a good defense. It's a defense you should throw for 459 and 3 touchdowns on. You absolutely should, especially when you're a presumptive top 5 pick like Carson Beck. It just hasn't looked consistent. This is a game where if Georgia really had their ducks in a row, they could have scored 50 or 60 on Mississippi State, but they didn't. They only scored 41, and I say only. That's a lot of points. But you watch this game, and it just wasn't as good as the final score would indicate, quite frankly. And you got to be worried if you're Georgia, because they do not have a whole lot of cupcakes left on the schedule here. They go on the road to Texas this coming week. There's a real chance they get their second loss in that one. Then they play Florida at home. They go on the road to Ole Miss, which is not even a sneaky game. It's going to be a big game. Then they play Tennessee. You get a breather against UMass, and then you play Georgia Tech. They got 3 very losable games in there, and I could see them losing another game. Especially that game at Texas. That would worry me a lot if I were a Georgia fan for this upcoming week. You got a tough one against Mississippi State. Maybe that's a look-ahead spot. Maybe you're just kind of too amped for Texas. That'll happen when you're dealing with a bunch of 18 to 22-year-olds, as people like to say. But, man, you better shape up. Otherwise, you get that second loss, you're flirting down there in the 9 to 12 range. There's no guarantee you make the playoffs at that point. You still probably do if you're a 2-loss Georgia team in the SEC. But there's really no guarantee at that point that you make the playoffs. You're just at the mercy of the committee. And you have the right brand, you have the right colors, you got the right logo for the committee to rule in your favor. But at the end of the day, when you're boxing, you don't want to leave it to the judges. When you're in football, you don't want to leave it to the committee to decide who the playoff's going to be. So you better win the rest of your games, and I'd say it's a better than 50% chance that they lose one of these final 6 games. It's a tough time for Georgia right now, but this is the new SEC. You better be perfect, otherwise you're not going to come out of this thing squeaky clean at the end of the day. Scrappy game from the boys in Mississippi State. I'm a proud alum right now. I'm a proud alumnus. Another team that struggled, Alabama. They only win 27-25, and they basically need, one of the worst 3-play sequences I've ever seen from an offense out of South Carolina after they recover an onside kick close to field goal range. Alabama escaped their own home stadium with a win. This is the second straight week that they're on the ropes against a team that they should not be. The defense looks bad. The offense looks inconsistent at best, bad at worst. There's a real chance. He's not going to get run out of a job this year, but if Kalen DeBoer doesn't come through with one awesome recruiting class, man, he's on the hot seat. I don't know, right now. If he gets a second loss this season, and we got to look at what Alabama's upcoming schedule is. They play at Tennessee this coming week. That could be a loss. They're probably going to beat Missouri. Missouri's not all that good. And then you're at LSU, top 10 team right now, really solid team, kind of rounding into form. Mercer, you get a breather there. Then you're at Oklahoma, and then versus Auburn. So that Auburn game, there's nothing that Hugh Freeze and Auburn would love more at this point in the season. Your playoff hopes are out the window. You didn't really have playoff hopes in the first place, but at that point, if you can piss in your arch rivals' Cheerios, you go ahead and do that. You absolutely go ahead and do that. And they almost did it last year. They have a miracle play in 4th and goal for Alabama to ultimately win that game and go to the playoff. Auburn, watch them. They're a live dog here. They're going on the road to Tuscaloosa, but they are an absolutely live dog. If Alabama gets one more loss, again, you're leaving it up to the committee. One of these 2-loss teams seemingly is going to make it to the conference title game. There's no guarantee that you do, though, and even if you do, if you get a 3rd loss in that title game, you're certainly out. A second loss right now, you don't want a second loss. You want, if you're 1 loss going into the last week of the season or into the championship round, you're probably good to go. If you get a second loss, you are in big-time trouble. And Alabama is looking at that right now. And again, they're another team that I'm just not sure how good they are. This season right now is just kind of shaping out to Texas looks awesome, and no one else really looks great yet. Ohio State doesn't look great. There's questions on their defense. Oregon's looked up and down, but they're maybe the next one right now. Anyone outside of that, I can't think of any. Maybe Georgia, but Georgia was just struggling a little bit with little old plucky Mississippi State. 3-0 after the first possession of that game. Mississippi State had a lead at one point. People forget Mississippi State had a lead in that game at one point, and before turning the other direction pretty substantially. But Texas is kind of running away with this thing right now here in mid-season action. We'll kind of see if it stays that way, but that's kind of the read I'm getting. Tennessee had to go to overtime against Florida. Nico does not look like the player we thought he was. Dylan Sampson's legit. He is absolutely running teams over. He had another 3-touchdown game in this one. But he's the one kind of carrying the offense right now. 23-17, the final score. Tennessee really just kind of needed 60 minutes plus some against a Florida team that none of us really think is all that good. They don't look that great. It's the exact inverse of what it usually is for a Josh Heupel team this year. They have a really good defense with some really high-level players, and the offense is just middling right now, if even that. They've not looked good over the last several weeks since they started playing big-time competition. And, Nico looks like a freshman. That's to be expected sometimes. I think he's still a high-level prospect with a coach that's going to put him in the best chance to succeed, or best opportunity to succeed, best position to succeed even. That's the word I was looking for. But right now, he just ain't it. And I'm not sure Tennessee is a national title contender, but all the teams that we thought were national title contenders are kind of falling by the wayside. So who is right now, outside of Texas being the clear-cut favorite, a national title contender? There's 12 teams that are going to make the playoff. It's just a matter of, hey, who gets in and can someone get hot at the right time? We're really kind of, slowly trending towards the NFL version of this, which I'm not sure whether I like or not, but I'm willing to find out. Another banger of a game on this October 12th slate. Ole Miss goes on the road and they catch a second loss versus LSU. LSU gets the win 29-26 in overtime. Ole Miss just that's the sound of choking right there. Ole Miss chokes on the road. They're not going to be in the playoff anymore. They stink. Their team's about to fall apart, and I'm about to laugh the whole way along because you people deserve misery. That's just how I feel about that. Good win for LSU, though, man. I mean, we don't have to talk about Ole Miss and their latent suck, but hey, Garrett Nussmeier, I mean, he threw it about 1 million times. I'm not sure why he threw it that many times. I mean, that close of a game, but 337, 3 touchdowns. The offensive line inexplicably continues to struggle at points with both penalties and with, just general play. But hey, you got some good momentum going in the right direction. You get a big win here. You're a top 10 team now. Hey, LSU only 1 loss on the road at USC. Hey, maybe they can kind of round this thing into form and kind of make a playoff run here. They're undefeated in the SEC, so they're very much in the mix of things for the SEC title game. Let's watch LSU down the stretch, and let's proceed to promptly forget about Ole Miss. I will watch them and laugh as that team disintegrates before our very eyes, as every goal that they hope to achieve coming into the season just turns to dust. Huh. Warms my cold dead heart. 1-2 in the SEC too. That ain't gonna be good enough to get them to the SEC title game. They are dead in the water. Dead in the water, I say. And they may beat Mississippi State, but they're still gonna be dead in the water at the end of the day, and that just hits you right there. Feels great. Clemson goes on the road and they get a big-time blowout win, 49-14. You're going to hear about them later on the pick segment, just a little foreshadowing there. Maybe you can run and get that and see if the number is still what I got it at, but oh well. So yeah, Clemson wins 49-14. They're destroying teams right now. They are quickly looking like the class of the ACC after that week 1 debacling that they had against Georgia. We got to just stop taking these big week 1 Georgia wins as seriously, because I remember it happened one year with Oregon, and that was like one of 2 losses they had all year. It happened this year with Clemson, and that might be the only loss that Clemson has all year until they get to the postseason. This Clemson team, all of a sudden, I mean, they have an ability that I've not seen from them under the Garrett Riley offense. Frankly, it looks like Garrett Riley's being allowed to run the show now, which is encouraging to say the least. If you're not going to dip into the transfer portal, at least get your coordinators do what they want to do. It looks like they're doing it. Phil Maffa is a monster in the backfield. Cade Klubnik is really dominating here after that first game of the season. He's playing spectacular football. He went for another 309 yards, 3 touchdowns in this one. He is a consistent threat on the ground. He's really reviving his NFL draft stock right now. This Clemson team, with Miami struggling, I'm starting to think this Clemson team is the cream of the crop here in the ACC, and we're trending towards a massive showdown. If Miami keeps winning and Clemson keeps winning, Cade Klubnik versus Cam Ward in the ACC championship game, boy, that's a good look ahead to have, and let's just hope both those teams keep winning, because what a classic QB matchup there in the title game weekend. So Notre Dame gets another win, 49-7. They're just quietly ho-hum dominating people after that loss to Northern Illinois. They're going to need to get back in the good graces of people. I will say that right now. But they keep winning. Worth monitoring, but not worth dwelling on. I think we know exactly what Notre Dame is right now, but Riley Leonard keeps playing better. Just one to watch. Iowa State wins against West Virginia 28-16. They cover the spread for us. Feels good. Feels very, very good. Hansen, the running back for Iowa State, I'm unfamiliar with his work, but white boy running the rock back there. I mean, that's just classic Iowa football. He gets 3 touchdowns, a little under 5 yards a clip there. Rocco Beck still hasn't had that signature game that we've been waiting for, but hey, he continues to not make mistakes, not shoot the team in the foot. He goes into a hostile road environment where, I mean, the circumstances. West Virginia retired his dad's number either pregame or at halftime. So he walks into that environment with a huge emotional moment for everyone in his family. And can you blame him for not just having the best game of his life? He had a solid game, and that's all you can really ask for in that situation. Iowa State is 6-0. They look like they are well on their way to making a run at the Big 12 title game and a possible playoff berth there. I'm not sure anyone in the Big 12 looks great, but if there's anyone that's looked the best, it's probably Iowa State at this moment. Them and BYU, interestingly enough, 6-0, undefeated in conference play. They're probably going to play each other at some point. I don't know. I don't feel like looking at the schedule right now, but Iowa State continues to win. West Virginia is starting to fall off. We'll see how much good graces that Neil Brown got after last season's improbable win streak there. Well, we'll just have to see. We'll have to see. BYU continues to win. They win 41-19. They had a big game. Arizona continues to look dismal. No other way to put it. They look sad, and it sucks because when you have Noah Fifita, Tatario McMillan, it just sucks. Tatario McMillan, I apologize. Not great. Not great, and I want the Arizona of last year back. Bring Jedd Fisch back. That's simply all I ask at this point. Boise State gets another big win. Kind of struggled in this one. Ashton Jeanty had a down game, only 31 carries for 217 yards and a touchdown. I mean, he scored less than 3, so that's considered a down game for Ashton Jeanty. I reiterate, he is the runaway Heisman favorite right now. He's on pace to break every rushing record known to man in the history of college football. So he's a stud. Boise State is 5-1 right now. I think they play UNLV here at some point. They're going to bye this upcoming week. Then the following week, they got a big-time matchup against UNLV. Hey, UNLV, with Hajj Malik Williams stepping in there, boy, oh boy, that's going to be a big-time matchup. That's a classic after dark matchup. We got a 10:30 kickoff on October 25th there. That's the week after this one. That's a great after dark matchup. It is a travesty that matchup is going to be on CBS Sports Network. That deserves to be on a Fox, a CBS proper, or something. A travesty. ESPN even. Someone should pick up that game and put it on major television because that one's going to be a banger. I can't wait to watch that one. Who doesn't love some G5 football, man? That's actually one of the lines we're waiting on. A little foreshadowing for Thursday's episode there. But we can just kind of breeze through these. Kansas State gets another win. They're looking, they're bouncing back pretty nicely after their loss to BYU. Shedeur Sanders did go 34 for 40 in this game, 388, 3 touchdowns. He was a stud, but Colorado's defense can't stop anything, really. So Kansas State gets the win 31-28. I think Travis Hunter might have exited this game with an injury. I don't want to speak out of turn here. Only 3 receptions for 26 yards for Travis Hunter, which is certainly a down game for him. And, not a whole lot of impact on the other side. I think he did go out with an injury, so you hope he's okay. You hope that he can still make a Heisman run at this point. Colorado with 2 losses, that's tough for the Heisman resume, unfortunately, which it should just be the best player in all of college football, but we all know that's not the case. DJ Giddens had a huge game in this one. 25 carries, 182 yards. Made some people look foolish in this one. I believe he had a long touchdown, or at the very least, a long run to set up a touchdown in this game, so he was a stud. Kansas State, still very much in the mix of things. They have that 1 loss in conference to BYU. That's speaking very favorably to BYU's resume right now. But, hey, they're very much in the thick of things still. No one is out of it in the Big 12. Even Colorado, that was their first loss in the Big 12. They're still very much in things. They're 4-2 right now. This is going to be a shit show in the most beautiful way, and I simply can't wait. Hey, Shedeur Sanders, I've not heard any bad quotes recently. It's been very quiet from the Colorado perspective, and I think it's not a credit to Deion. It's a credit to Shedeur, and that's, hey, props where props are due, young man. It seems like you're coming along a little bit in that aspect, and I don't want to sound patronizing, but hey, I truly root for the guy's success. And I think the best way for him to be successful and be a high draft pick is to start acting like a quarterback in press conferences and stop throwing guys under the bus. I've not heard that for several weeks now. So props where it's due. Hey, Shedeur, you seem to be working in the right direction. Because if you keep playing like this and you stop having bad quotes in press conferences, you're going to be a first-round pick. Make no mistake about it, because Shedeur Sanders is playing incredibly right now. Just a matter of cleaning those things up. But I digress on that front. Missouri gets the win over UMass 45-3. Ooh, excuse me. Pittsburgh keeps winning. They get a win 17-15 over Cal. Just a classic Pat Narduzzi win in that one. So he's 6-0 in the ACC. Pittsburgh is an ACC dark horse, make no mistake about it. Illinois had to escape one versus now 1-5 Purdue. Wild one. Final in overtime, 50-49. This was just classic college football. Illinois was favored by like 3 touchdowns before this one, and all of a sudden Purdue's got them on the ropes at home. They just had to outlast them, as the headline says there. But hey, Illinois is now 5-1. They're still in the mix of things there in the Big Ten, though I think they're going to kind of fall off at some point. But 5-1 right now, they're still very much in the mix of things. So you got to give them credit there. We'll see what happens on that front. But hey, man, Purdue, got to watch out for them, Oregon. They're coming for you this week. They are absolutely coming for you. All right, let's do a little wrap-up of all the conferences here. North Carolina lost their 4th straight. This one to Georgia Tech, who's now 5-2. Credit to Georgia Tech now. 41-34 was the final score versus North Carolina. Is it too late for Mack Brown to retire again? Because I think it's just going to happen eventually no matter what. I think he just kind of made a gentleman's agreement that he's going to finish out the season. I hope North Carolina's back channeling for their new head coach, because I don't think Mack Brown's going to be there again next year. I think this is a emotionally taxing year for him. So that's one to watch out for. Louisville escaped one against Virginia. Both 4-2, actually. 24-20. Louisville gets the win over Virginia, a win that they desperately needed in order to not have their season totally derailed. So they're still, I guess, in the mix of things in the ACC, though I don't really take them too seriously. And then Syracuse gets the win over NC State 24-17. Syracuse, sneaky 5-1. I don't think anyone really thinks they're all that good, but hey, man, they're going to have a chance to prove themselves throughout the course of this ACC schedule, so hey, let's see them do it. They're 5-1 right now, so we'll see if they keep on winning. Big 12, any matchups that I missed there? Cincinnati beat UCF. That's just 2 teams that aren't very good, but Cincinnati is somehow 4-2 right now. So hey, credit where credit is due. UCF, you disgust me. You absolutely disgust me, and that's all I have to say about that. Okay, so Big 10, any matchups we missed here? Any matchups? Yes, Maryland there were double-digit favorites, and they lost by 27 on Friday night. Northwestern beat the hell out of them, 37-10. Just dominated in the fourth quarter. It was a 10-point game at the end of the 3rd, and then Northwestern just hit the gas, outscored them 20-3. This game was absolutely over. Hey, Maryland's still looking for their first Big Ten win. Northwestern gets their first. They win 37-10. Iowa, they might have an offense here, man. They're not very good, but they might have an offense, and they've certainly got a running back here with Caleb Johnson. They get one of those touchdowns at the end of the half where you're just trying to run out the clock, but Caleb Johnson doesn't know that you're just trying to run out the clock, so he runs it all the way for a touchdown at the end of the first half. He ends up with 166 yards and 2 touchdowns. He's an absolute NFL prospect. He's a monster in there. Cade McNamara, in the most hilarious stat of the week, threw his first touchdown against an FBS opponent since 2021 with Michigan. I frankly did not know Cade McNamara had been in college that long, so that's news to me. That's certainly news to me, but that's your hilarious stat of the day. Iowa gets the win 40-16. They're 4-2. I don't think anyone really expects anything big out of them, but they get the win there. And hey, Wisconsin, man, maybe they're rounding into form. I mean, Rutgers, they get their second straight loss, and they get it in emphatic fashion. Wisconsin beats them 42-7 in a beat 'em down special. Wisconsin hasn't had one of those in quite some time, so this one's got to feel good. Hey, maybe they're running into form under Luke Fickell right now. I mean, they're feisty. They're absolutely feisty, and we'll see if they can kind of string together some wins and maybe give Luke Fickell some breathing room, because the seat has been getting hot there for quite some time. Hey, maybe Wisconsin's rounding into form under Luke Fickell. Hey, Minnesota just barely gets the cover for us by the skin of our teeth. 21-17 over UCLA. They get the win. This is just two bad teams, but Minnesota is a Big Ten team, and UCLA is still trying to transition over into a Big Ten team. So it's just what happens. That's just what happens, man. UCLA is just abysmal. They're just so bad. So god-awful. That's it for the Big Ten, though. What do we got next? Let's look at the SEC to kind of round things out here. Any ones I missed? Vandy beat Kentucky. Vandy is 4-2 right now. Diego Pavia's got all of the swag known to man just in the palm of his hand. That's bars right there, and that's an absolute fact. Hey, 20-13. Vandy keeps on winning. You love to see it. We'll just see how long they keep Clark Lee, but hey, you just got to enjoy this while you got it, Vanderbilt, because there's no guarantee that this ever happens again, because in all likelihood, you're right back to the gutter next year. That's the bottom line. And hey, maybe if they keep Clark Lee, they can keep trending in this direction. But the second Clark Lee leaves, you're right back to Vanderbilt. So you better just keep on, you just keep on being happy with the success that you got, because you've not been this good since James Franklin was there, and we all saw what James Franklin went on to do at his very next job. So enjoy this while you got it, Vanderbilt, because I'm not sure you're going to have it long, but enjoy it. Enjoy it, because it is sweet right now. It is absolutely sweet. Okay, so that wraps things up for the Power 4 wrap-up for Week 7. Let's take a look at Week 8, and then we're going to get you out of here with some picks along the way. So let's see what we got right now. Sneakiest game of the week, Friday night kickoff, 8 p.m. Oregon, number 2 team in the nation, is on the road at Purdue. Oregon currently favored by 27.5. The people are going to bet this down. So if you're looking to bet on Oregon, hold up. Just hold up for a little bit, see what the line does. Hell, if it doesn't move, you should feel even better about that. But I have a feeling that the public is going to be very much on Purdue in this one. Just based on historical trends, Oregon, you got to watch out on this one. You got to really watch out. BYU is a minus 9.5 point favorite versus Oklahoma State. And I didn't love that as much the first time I saw it. But you know what? I'm going to add it to the slate right now. BYU minus 9.5 versus Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State stinks. BYU is very good this year. I think they win by double digits. Give me that 9.5 for BYU. Okay, we have got Miami, Louisville. Miami favored by 4. I'm staying the hell away from any game with Miami in it right now. I just don't know what to expect from them week after week. They just seem to keep snatching victory from the jaws of defeat. They're very reminiscent of that TCU team that went all the way to the national championship a couple years ago. Clemson is a minus 21.5 point favorite against Virginia. I'm here to tell you can still get 21 over at Caesars, and we're betting that. Minus 21, Clemson versus Virginia. Virginia is playing very good this year, but Clemson's just playing better. Cade Klubnik has 17 passing touchdowns to 2 interceptions. He is playing the best football that he's played in college, and that Clemson team is on fire right now. Give me the Clemson Tigers minus 21 in this game. Indiana is a minus 6.5 point favorite against Nebraska. I'm staying away from that. Indiana's been great so far this season, but Nebraska's the best defense that they've faced, and I'm staying away right now. I'm still in a wait-and-see mode against very good competition when it comes to Indiana. Missouri is favored by 4.5 against Auburn. Staying the hell away from that one, too. Missouri's not looked great, and Auburn is a feisty team. If I had more cojones, I would bet on Auburn, but I simply don't. Army's a minus 15.5 point favorite against East Carolina. I'm not betting it, but it's never a bad bet to bet against the Army soldiers here. I don't know what their actual mascot is here, but support the troops, man. If you want to bet on Army, go right ahead. Minus 15.5 versus East Carolina, and I wouldn't blame you for betting on that. Tennessee's a 2.5 point favorite against Alabama in a big matchup, the third Saturday in October. Classic matchup. I don't know what to expect from either of these teams, so I'm staying the hell away. That's the bottom line there on that one. 55.5 though, leaning the under. Definitely leaning the under. I mean, Tennessee can play some rock fights. I'll tell you what, that might be the play there, but we'll see how that all goes. Notre Dame's an 11-point favorite versus Georgia Tech. I'm staying away from that one, frankly. I don't have a great reason to do so, but I'm staying away from that one. So right now, this is kind of the ones that we're waiting on. Michigan versus Illinois. Michigan is favored by 3. I like Illinois in this game. I think Illinois is just a better version of what Michigan wants to do this season. All the indications are that this line is going to move at some point in our favor, though. So right now it's Michigan -3. We'll get back to it on Thursday. If the number doesn't move, I'm just going to bet it at +3. But we're waiting on a +3.5, and I think we can get it. So we're just going to wait on that movement there. I love that, though. I love that matchup, and it's one that we're most likely going to add at some point here. Just going to wait and see what the line does. Navy's -17 versus Charlotte. Again, support the Droops. Bet on them. I'm not going to do it in this circumstance, though. At least not right now. Texas A&M at Mississippi State. Hey, you don't go into Starkville and you expect a good game or expect a not feisty game. That being said, I think Texas A&M is much, much better than Mississippi State. I think we're in for a long day on that one. I'm not betting on it, though. I'm just simply not betting on it. LSU is favored by 3 at Arkansas. Boy, that's another place you don't go into Fayette now and expect to come out unscarred. This is going to be a scrappy game. I'm not betting on it. Chaotic shit happens when you go on the road to Fayetteville. That's the bottom line there. I'm staying the hell away. Sam Pittman coaching for his job still. It's a dangerous team, man. That's a dangerous team in a dangerous environment. I'm staying 50 feet to 50 miles away from that at all times. Georgia, in the biggest matchup of the week, is on the road at Texas. Texas is favored by 3.5. And I don't know if I'm going to bet this one. I haven't decided really yet. But I'm heavily leaning Texas right now. We're just gonna, we're gonna make a decision on that before the Thursday episode. But for right now, it's a strong lean to Texas. Iowa State is a -14-point favorite to UCF. That's another strong lean. I'm gonna wait on that one, but that's a strong lean in favor of Iowa State. I really like the Cyclones right now. Shout out to my dad's alma mater. Kansas State is a -3-point favorite on the road at West Virginia. Kansas State's going to have to prove it to me one more time. I'm staying away from this one. West Virginia's a tough road environment to just kind of walk into. This is a big 12 game for them in back-to-back weeks. So, yeah, I'm staying the hell away from this one. And SMU's a -15.5-point favorite against Stanford. I don't have an opinion on that game. Not one singular opinion. Okay, so let's see what else is going on here in the magical world of the Power Four. Boston College is a 7-point dog to Virginia Tech. I would lean Boston College there, but I don't feel very strongly about that. Duke is only a 3.5-point favorite versus Florida State. I almost added this to the card, man. I was dangerously close to adding this to the card, but alas, not right now. We'll reinvestigate that later. Already talked about that. UConn's a 1.5-point favorite against Florida State. If you're betting that one, just call the hotline, folks. UConn, sneaky 4-2 though. Already talked about that one. This is one we're adding to the card. Right now, you can get Cal -9.5 against NC State over at FanDuel. We're moving on that. I already locked that bet in. We'll see how long that number stays there. Looks like it might move to that 10.5 or 10 here at some point, but I was able to get a 9.5 in favor of Cal. I think they're going to win by double digits here. I like this. I don't think NC State is a very good football team. So yeah, that's my logic behind it. So we're betting Cal this week. That's the second bet or the third bet of the week. And we already hit on that last one. So that's it for the ACC. Let's go over to the Big 12, see what's going on. I was very close to betting Arizona +2.5 at Cincinnati. I just don't think Cincinnati's all that good. I'm just not sure how good Arizona State is on the other side of things. So that's why I'm staying away for right now. We'll reevaluate that and maybe get back to it on Thursday. Colorado is at Arizona. Arizona's a 3.5-point favorite. I kind of like Colorado in this game. I just think they've been playing much better than Arizona. I think you're at least seeing hope from Colorado, where you're just not seeing any from Arizona right now. I don't know, man. I'm very tempted to take Colorado at plus 3.5 there. Again, that's another one that we'll probably revisit here on the Thursday episode. We'll go back and reevaluate it on Thursday with clearer eyes and fuller hearts. TCU at Utah. Utah no longer ranked. They're minus 4.5 favorite. That's one I'm tempted to take as well. Minus 4.5 for Utah. I just gonna have a hard time convincing me to bet on this Utah team right now. They really stink. They're really just not that good, and they're not nearly the team that we thought they would be going into Big 12 play. And it's all up to Cam Rising's health right now. It's all up to Cam Rising's health. How about the Big 10? We got Wisconsin going on the road to Northwestern. Wisconsin's a 7-point favorite. I don't know, man. Northwestern, I just saw them beat the hell out of Maryland. Maryland's not all that good, but Northwestern's at least got some life to them. And a road dog by that number of points, I'm just hesitant to take that. Rutgers is currently minus 4 versus UCLA. I'm very tempted to take that too, but just also not very sure how good Rutgers is. That's another one we maybe revisit on Thursday, so we'll circle back around to that. USC's on the road at Maryland, and USC's a minus 7-point favorite. Now that's a road dog that I'm tempted to take. Maryland's not really a Big Ten team either. Let's be honest with ourselves here. And they're bad. Of the 3-3 teams here, they're certainly the worst one. I think it's a good spot for USC to get their second Big Ten win of the season. We'll see. I'm not very effusive about that line there at minus 7, but we'll see. Iowa is a 6.5-point favorite against Michigan State on the road, and it's another one. I am dubious of lines that large for teams that are like roughly at the same level. Obviously, Iowa is better, but like they're just a shade above Michigan State's level, and they're favored by 6.5 on the road. I don't know. I'm staying away from that right now. So I don't think I'll revisit that one either. I'm just staying away from that one. You can choose to bet it if you want to, but I'm staying away from that. South Carolina is at Oklahoma. Oklahoma's favored by 3. That's a sneaky South Carolina spot right there. People forget it's Cocktober right now, and you just can't underestimate the Cocks during Cocktober. That's the bottom line at the end of this day. So sneaky lean there to South Carolina. Probably won't add to the card, but sneaky lean there. Ball State is at Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt, how about that? Big spread on this one, 26.5 in their favor. And Ball State's a pretty terrible team. I kind of lean in Vanderbilt's favor. I'm not betting on Vanderbilt though. Let's be honest with ourselves. Okay, Kentucky's at Florida. Florida is favored by 1. I worked too hard for my money to bet on this game, man. I'm not doing it. I don't think you should either. I guess Florida's the lean, but I'm not betting on Billy Napier. You can choose to do so if you want to, but I'm not doing that. That being said, hey, we got through this thing in a reasonable amount of time right now. And real quick, let's do a quick recap of the bets. If I can just get these things pulled up. So we got Clemson minus 21 versus Virginia. We got Cal minus 9.5 versus NC State. And we just added, if I can pull this thing up here, it was a top 25 matchup, so I should be able to pull this up here pretty quickly. We added BYU minus 9.5, unless I can find a better line here. I'm not looking at all the books. It's just, I'm scrolling through ESPN, so obviously they're giving me the ESPN bet number on that one. So, yeah, we're adding BYU minus 9.5. Let's ride, folks. So that's your first 3 picks. I think they're 3 winners, but I think that every time, and I always end up losing some. So gamble responsibly, folks. Gamble responsibly. Let me just get this in here real quick. And with that, thank you so much for tuning in to Unqualified Analysis, folks. If you enjoyed, go ahead, leave a like, subscribe, rate, review, share it with a friend. Help me grow this thing. Get us into the algorithms. Let's keep on moving in the right direction here, folks. Let's just keep on moving. Let's keep on growing. Let's keep on thriving right now, okay? If you want to contact me, contact the show. First off, you can follow me on Twitter at CalebVUA. Link to that will be down in the description, so you don't have to do a whole lot of hard work on that. From there, though, if you want to contact me, either probably just shoot me a DM on Twitter or go on over to the email. That's unqualifiedanalysis@gmail.com. also down in the description. And yeah, you can shoot me an email there, and I'll try to see if I can add whatever you're talking about to the show, or just ignore you because you're being a piece of shit. That hasn't ever really happened, but it's what will happen if you are a piece of shit. That's my promise from me to you. But yeah, with that said, thank you so much for tuning in to Unqualified Analysis. As always, I have got just next to no clue what I'm talking about, but I'll tell you what, life is good. Life is good right now. I just feel like I should put a little disclaimer in there. Life is so utterly fantastic. It's hard to imagine that just 6 months ago it was not quite so much fantastic. So with that, one thing I learned this week, the International Space Station moves 5 miles per second in orbit over or around the Earth. The space station just moved 5 miles. It's crazy. It's probably moved like 40, 50, 100 miles since I started talking. It's insane. It boggles the mind to think about how fast things like that move in space. With that, though, I will be back Thursday with an NFL episode of Unqualified Analysis. And until then, hey, you enjoy your little midweek here. Let's go get after it here in this work week, okay, guys? Ready? 1, 2, 3, break.